Привет, мой дорогой друзья. Hello, my dear friends. You're on the Scythian channel. Today we'll discuss new developments in Ukraine, Russia. We'll have a look at Australia's response, and we have some very interesting and important updates. So let's begin. Some of you will be aware of Vladimir Putin's speech yesterday, announcing the Russian Federation's decision to step up the special military operation in Ukraine. This was followed by an announcement from the General Shoigu, the Russian Defense Minister, of an immediate conscription of some 300,000 reservists who have relevant skills and combat experience to be given preparatory training and for deployment in Ukraine. Predictably, the Western media has pounced on this as a further act of aggression from Moscow and focused on what they are calling the threat of nuclear war in the Kremlin, from the Kremlin. In fact, what has been indicated by President Putin's speech was that further threats coming from the collective West, if taken past their toxic rhetoric stage, those are my words, paraphrasing Mr. Putin's, would result in retaliation, and that we are not bluffing. Mr. Putin was referring to Prime Minister Liz Truss's comments recently that she's ready to launch nuclear strikes on Russia if they persist on so-called acts of aggression in Ukraine. A quick look at the current news coverage of Australia's state-owned ABC News showed a series of articles whipping up more hysteria, fear, hatred and racism against Russia. On the well-known social media platform's ABC page, we see that the usual shutting down of public comment has occurred once again, once one or two anti-Russian comments are made to indicate that the public opinion is of one voice, the voice that parrots the ABC neo-leftist agenda. So much for freedom of expression in Australia. The likes of WEF adherent and Foreign Minister Penny Wong calls President Putin's announcement threats unthinkable and irresponsible. No mention, of course, of the hawkish rhetoric coming from London, which prompted President Putin's response. The Australian government continues its military support of the Kiev regime, which has been committing horrific war crimes against the civilian population of Donetsk People's Republic and the recently reoccupied region of Kharkiv. The Ukraine military's Azov and other NAZI extremists are carrying out what they call filtration, a sanitised term for the rounding up of civilians who have committed the crimes of anything from accepting humanitarian aid from Russia to cooperating with Allied forces during the liberation of the Kharkiv region. Russia recently withdrew from Kharkiv, and unfortunately some Russian-speaking residents chose to stay rather than being evacuated. These civilians are reportedly being imprisoned or killed, often involving the preferred method of torture employed by the more fanatical paramilitary groups of Ukraine, which involves the taping of a garbage bag over the head of the victim, resulting in a slow suffocation of that person. Many corpses have been found and documented by Allied troops, still with bags over their heads and their hands tied behind their backs. Apparently, the Australian government condones these documented crimes by its continued support of the Kiev regime. I wonder if they send garbage bags along with the weapons. As yet, I've seen no official response from the Biden administration. Let's wait and see. President Putin's recent speech at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting indicated that the Russian Federation's patience is running out with continued threats, aggression and support of the Kiev regime. He indicated that the conflict in Ukraine would be brought to an end soon. Mr. Putin is a leader who tends to keep his promises. In Ukraine, front lines are relatively stable. Those skirmishes continue around Kherson in the south and the Kharkiv region in the northeast, and a massive operation is underway around the key strategic population centre of Bakhmut. Once Bakhmut falls, the way will be clear for Allied forces to take the remaining territory of the Donetsk People's Republic, still under Kiev forces' occupation at the moment. In the Kiev-held Kharkiv region, reports of US NATO-supplied rockets targeting civilian centres over the border into Russian sovereign territory have come to light. Once the necessary laws and sufficient forces are in place, the Russian Federation's response will be swift and decisive. The Scythian Channel condemns all violence in Ukraine. Thanks for being with us today. Please like, subscribe and share. Bye-bye for now.